Allow me to share two stories. One very brief, which is inspired by my brother's statement when he said, "Think about it." And a short one will be a little bit of my experience. The tragedy is that I really don't need to think about it because I have seen it. And I want to share the story of a traffic police officer who was with us in a refugee camp in a place called Mboki in Central African Republic. He had survived war, was in the refugee camp. He had 7 kids. And in one day, he lost them. He lost 4 of them, one after the other. And the death of these children, 4 out of 7, was not because they did not have access to food, but access to an expired food supplied by an international actor. In fact, the food expired in 1974. And his case was not just one. In that camp, I counted, and I still can remember, families out of the 85,000 Sudanese then and South Sudanese who ran to Central African Republic. They ran out of tears. And so I see, I feel, and I hear those cries. But it's also a story that I can relate to quite personally. It was 1989 when the war that had started in the Sudan, at least restarting again in 1983, and we heard about it. We read about it. We were in the same country, but it had not reached the part of the country we were in until 1989. I remember vividly the harvest we had, food in the house, we ate, we went to bed. And that was the last time. Midnight, 4 a.m., the war started. And that beginning, something we thought was not going to reach where we were, the beginning of a journey that took me years. A journey that took me through, as I mentioned yesterday, Central African Republic, through to Nigeria. A journey that I didn't know. I knew where it started. I was not sure where it was going to end. A journey that took me 17 years to just search for basic education. A journey that took me 1,725 kilometers between countries, trekking in search of a better life. But that is not the story that I want to, because there is always the tendency for people to think it is a story about courage, it's a story about resilience, it's a story about determination, and it's a story about a dream. No, that's not the story I want to tell. In fact, in my village, my greatest dream was to get a bicycle. Because at least that was the fastest moving object that I related to. So it's not about a dream. But the story I want to tell is a story of the generosity of men and women that I met, men and women who knew that I was just human and I was just a child, who did not know where I was coming from, who did not know where I was going to, but who knew for sure that they would not have an opportunity for me to say thank you to them again. So they didn't do what they did because they expected anything in return. They did it because I was human. It is a story of people who open villages, who open their hearts to a stranger, shared the little food that they had. It is a story of individuals who stood, immigration officers. Remember, we had no identity, had no paper, had nothing. Who stood to bend policies to allow me cross borders? Who will accompany to ensure that we did not fall in the hand of traffickers? Not because we'll come back to them again and give them anything in return. Who asked no money for the service they did. It was a story of churches, story of mosque, story of men, women, white and black, who took one step at a time to offer me a job as a housemate, to give me their car to drive as a taxi driver and make an income, who went a step to ensure, and is one of these guy that the story touched me and I want to mention it. This was Nigeria, and I hope there's a Nigerian here. The person will remember, there's a place in Nigeria called Obalende. We arrived, we were under the bridges, we had slept under those bridges for 3 weeks. And one day, we saw somebody that looked like South Sudanese. We stepped, we asked him, he turned out to be a South Sudanese. And he was a security man working far away in a place called Ikeja. And he said, we can go there. We went there, we saw his place, we gave us something to eat, we walked back. This was a Sunday. We said, okay, it's now been 4 days, we have not eaten anything. The energy is gone. Hunger in the village and hunger in the urban area are completely different. Hunger is painful. But in the city, you see food, but it is not your food. You see food everywhere. People eat, they throw away, and you come around, you're just a very smelly, disturbing object. It was painful. We trekked. The distance between Obalende and Ikeja is around 42 kilometers on the other side. So we are going to look for food with no energy, and that day our brother did not turn out. So there was nothing. And we had to walk back to our new apartment, the bridge. When we got back, there was no energy left. Lie down there. And there was this man. He was mentally challenged. He had no clothes on himself, but he had a loaf of bread. Men with sense and dignity and car walked and passed us by. But this guy stopped, looked at us, and came and gave us a loaf of bread. If humanity, if I was ever in doubt that each and every one of us seated here are endowed with human spirit, endowed with human compassion, endowed with love, I have seen it across the board. I have experienced it even from an African who by every single standard should be committed to a mental institution. And so my message this evening is, it is not because we are not good people. It is not because we are not kind. It's just that maybe something has not provoked us, inspired us to just share. Just a loaf of bread can make a difference. And I remember when I came in one of those, and by the way, and I have not said this to Dr. Safa, because before I came and joined the African Child Policy Forum in 2008, Doctor, before that, the only money I had touched was $20. And that $20 was sent to me by a friend that we met in the camp and was resettled in the United States. I didn't spend it. I kept it. So these are people who reached out and gave me a lift. And I've tried in my little way. And I want to challenge us seated here, as my brother have said. If you're a government official, you are not respected because of the buildings that your country has. Not because of the cars you drive, the beauty of letterheads, the suit you put on. It's by the quality of the life of your citizen, the quality of the life of your children, the quality of the life of your women. And we can do something about it in our little ways. You know, we talk about government. I worked with a non-governmental organization that used to pay us hardship allowance for staying in Addis. A non-governmental organization, hardship allowance for working in Nairobi. We can do more with even the very little that we have. But if government fails, NGOs fail, my brother, my sister, ma'am, you can do something about the life of that child that you drive by and is a nuisance between traffic. That child might stand tomorrow like I stand here before you. You can do something the life of that child. Thank you.